Good day, class. Last time we stopped on the source of information about new clients. But this class we are going to move to communicating with the present auditor. One of the ethical requirements prior to the acceptance of audit engagement is to obtain the client's permissions to rise to the retiring auditor. That is inquiring if there is any professional reason why the appointments should not be accepted. The essence of this ethical requirement is to protect the shareholders and as well as a mix of professional courtesy. The auditor should request the prospective client's permissions to communicate with the previous auditor. If such permission is refused, they should decline the nomination. That is, if the client refuse them communicating with their previous auditor, they should decline that nomination, because which means they can't carry on such a job. But if the permission is granted, the auditor should write to the previous auditors to request relevant information which will enable them take decision as to whether they should accept the nomination. When the previous auditor received the request from the prospective auditor, the formal auditor should request the client's permission to discuss the client's affairs freely with the proposed auditor. If the request is refused, the retiring auditor should report the facts to the prospective auditor. The offer may be declined. If the request is granted, they should frankly and freely discuss with the prospective auditor all issues relevant to the appointment of which the latter should be aware, and disclose fully all information which appears to them to be relevant to the client's affairs. Post acceptance procedure. That is, if you have communicated and you are sure that information is being granted, now we want to look at what happened after that, then post acceptance procedure. After going through the pre-acceptance procedure as outlined above, the prospective auditor will be in a position to accept the nomination or otherwise. The following procedure should be carried out after accepting nomination. A. The new auditor should ensure that the outgoing auditor's removal and retirement or resignation has been properly concluded and is in consonance with the provisions of the Company Allied Matter Act Cap C20 LVN 2004. B. The new auditor should ensure that his appointment is valid and formalized. It's essential that he obtained a copy of the resolution passed at the general meeting appointing him as the company's auditor. C. Where portions of the outgoing auditor's fee is still outstanding, the new auditor should join hands with the outgoing auditor to secure payment. That is, you don't come and take the job while they are owing the previous auditor and you are excited that I just got a job as auditor. No, you join hands with him to ensure that every outstanding are paid. D. The new auditor should submit a letter of engagements to the directors of the company. E. On taking up the appointments, the new auditor should make arrangements to collect all books, documents, papers that belongs to the client's company from the outgoing auditors. The outgoing auditors are expected to cooperate in that regard and transfer all such documents unless they have lain over the record as a result of outstanding fees. If nothing is outstanding, every record that will help the incoming auditor should be handed over to him. After knowing that, we need to look at the letter of engagement, because we said he must give the letter of engagement. What does it mean? Prior to the commencement of any audit work, the auditor should agree in writing the precise scope and nature of the audit works to be undertaken. The letter of engagement serves this purpose. You should be able to know to the extent the scope of which is going to go and the nature of the audit that is going to undertake or carried out for his client. The letter of engagement is therefore a letter sent by the auditors to a client at the beginning of any audit. It sets out the terms of the engagement and form the basis of the contract. Purpose of letter of engagement. To define clearly the extent of the audits or auditors and directors' responsibility. That is, in that letter of engagement, we are going to state clearly what are the responsibility of the auditor and the responsibility of the director. Who does what is going to be stated clearly. B, by formalizing the terms of engagement. It helps to minimize the possibility of any misunderstanding between the auditors and the client. It provides written confirmation of the audit's acceptance of the appointment. It confirms in writing verbal agreements in respect of scope of the audit, the form of their report, and the scope of any non-audit assignment. Because it must state that you don't do what is not part of the letter of engagement. You do what is on that letter of engagement. Content of the letter of engagement. The main emphasis of this letter is on the relevance, responsibility of the directors and the auditor and the scope of the audit. It should also identify any reports which the auditor must submit in addition to the statutory audit report. Specified contents are outlined below. A. The board of directors' responsibility in respect of the proper books of accounts and financial statements. Because we know directors has to make the proper books of accounts and the financial statements available for the auditor, because that's their responsibility. B. The auditor's responsibility to report the financial statements, the scope and basis of the audit work to be undertaken. C. Fees and bill arrangements. It does not state the fees payable. D. Where appropriate, arrangements concerning the involvement of other auditors and experts in such aspects of the audit. That is, like I've told you in the previous class before, that for the fact that one is undertaking audit work means he will do everything. In the course of the audit, peradventure, you are going into a real estate firm to audit. There are things that are not debit and credit that you should know. In that case, you're supposed to involve the services of a valuer who will be able to understand the terms, who understand the terminology of the things you don't understand. With that, it will make another to have a proper informed opinion about the activities of his client. E. Any agreements for the auditors to provide taxation services. F. Arrangements, if any, to be made with the predecessor auditors. G. Any restriction of the auditor's liability to the client. Open the bracket. This is not possible with limited company. H. A reference to any further agreement between the auditors and the client. Well, I propose timetable for the arrangement. And finally, J, request for written acknowledgement of the letter. Auditors, you must have a closing date. Are you going to be there in the client premises for 3 weeks? Are you going to be there for 1 month? How long are you going to be there? It must be stated. And if this understanding is clear, that's what is the letter of engagement. Then we can issue or reverse letter of engagement. Why should we refer letter of engagement? Said the letter should be issued to any new clients before audit work begins. The letter should be reviewed every year to ensure that it is up to date. Don't just say, well, you start work, you need to review. Probably things have changed in that company. All those things should come to play. Now we are ending this class. We are ending this year. Next class we are going to continue from here.